years, and I'm sitting in front of a king who's done 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I go through that particular guilt as well, even though, you know, it was those 3 years felt like 30 years, but it was only 44 months, you know.
Well, who's to say what is too much time? 3 years can be feel just like 20 years. And any amount of time in prison is too long. That's my philosophy.
Mhm.
So we don't look at the numbers, we look at the injustice. We don't even look at the person, we just look at the injustice.
Mhm.
In 3 years, you were done wrong.
Mhm.
I may have done 20 years because I may have done some of the things that they say I done. You didn't do any of the things you done. So that makes your 3 years 10 times as hard as my 20 years because you are actually innocent. And I'm not saying I'm completely innocent because again, I done some of the things, but I'm gonna say 80% of the things they charged me with, I did not do.
Mhm.
So please don't feel that way. We are here to help each other. For me, when they put let me give you this analogy. When they put the cuffs on me, it was too much time. I felt like it was too much time right then. Before they even put me in the police car, I was already feeling like I was tired. So I definitely understand where you're at, but please don't feel that way.
Thank you.
Mr. Clifton, we are live on all platforms, sir.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Today we have a special guest, Miss Carmen Johnson, and we want to let her. First, I want to welcome everybody to the platform. And thank you for being here. And I also want to just give a special shout out to my co-hosts tonight, Mr. James Jones and Miss Lisa Riley, because without them, we couldn't. Without all of us, we wouldn't be here. I think the struggle that we've been through has allowed us to be able to help other people navigate through the injustice of the system. And it's going to take constant work. And I just think that we have to be mindful of that. It's going to take constant work for us to continue to keep on fighting. And so today we have a special guest, and I want her to introduce her. It's Dr. Carmen Johnson. And Ms. Johnson, how are you doing?
I am blessed and trying to, stay balanced. And, was a lot going on in the streets and, this election stuff. And, there's a lot of fear of COVID and, all types of energy that's just moving in our atmosphere. So I'm trying to keep a polarity by staying balanced and meditated and focused, and to continue to keep my vibration at a love vibration opposed to a fear vibration.
Okay. I heard you tell everybody that you have been incarcerated.
Yes, I did 3.5 years at a prison camp called Alderson Federal Prison Camp for Women. And it was the same camp that Martha Stewart was at. It was the same camp that Billie Holiday was at. It was the same camp that Jesse Jackson's daughter-in-law, Sandy Jackson, was at. The same camp that Bernie Madoff's secretary was at. Even though it was a camp, it was still jail. Even though it didn't have bars or cells or gates or guns, guards with guns or anything like that, it was still jail.
Right.
And I did not deserve to be there.
Okay, well, you mind explaining to the audience, the listeners, what your crime was and why you went to prison?
The alleged crime was 24 counts of mortgage, bank, and wire fraud conspiracy. And I am the former housing chair of the State of Maryland, State Conference NAACP of Maryland. And I was trying to get a moratorium to freeze the illegal foreclosures that was going on back then. And these foreclosures was running rampant through the Black communities. And so the state conference NAACP asked me would I be the chair, and I said absolutely, because my background was financial literacy and economics and things of that nature. So I understood that something horrible was going on. I had a for-profit business called Able Estate and Company. It was $1 million company. And we offered the services of credit restoration, debt arbitration, financial planning, preparation for bankruptcy, rehabilitation after bankruptcy, identity fraud. We didn't give the loans to the people, but when you came in, we did a household budget, and we would contact the creditors, and we would pay the creditors off. And so then you would pay us back monthly. So I would report my trade line of services and also my trade line of fees to Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So I was a member of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So back then, I was not an advocate of people purchasing homes, because I knew that if you didn't have the money to pay for the home, I recommended that you did not get tied up into all those mortgage papers back then. And also back then, your scores had to be like between 680 and higher, and you had to been on your job a long time and things of that nature. But I started noticing when in my for-profit business that the criteria was lowering. The scores kept getting lower and lower and lower. I mean, you could have a 450, 500 credit score and 2 pay stubs, and you can go and buy a $500,000 home. My clients were personal clients, individual clients, but my biggest group of clients was the 5 major banks, mortgage companies all around the United States, real estate agents all around the United States. So it was these 2 particular realtors who were Tanzanian. And in 2007 or 2008, they brought some paperwork for their clients. So when the banks, the mortgage companies, and the realtors would give me clients, I would never see their clients because it was on my corporate side. The contract was with the banks, the mortgage companies, or the realtors. So it wasn't no big deal that I didn't see these 2 realtors' clients. So this one particular time, one of the realtors came to my office, and when I put in the information into the credit agency information, it came up deceased. I threw him out my office, and I told him never to come back. I never seen either one of these 2 these Tanzanians ever again until 2015 in court. Anyway, after that, that's when I became the housing chair, trying to figure out what was going on with, all these foreclosures that was happening in the Black communities and the tan communities and the brown communities. And I realized that they were illegal. So it got to the point, because I already had a relationship with the big major banks. I also had relationships with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And not to mention, I created relationships with judges. So I would call Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and say, you guys are getting ready to foreclose on this home. This paperwork is not correct. You're missing this, and this. You cannot foreclose on this home. They would release the home. It got to the point I would call the judges' chambers, because remember, I was the state conference NAACP. That's a huge title. So I would call the judges' chambers. You're getting ready to auction off this home, and it's illegal. The paperwork is not correct for these foreclosures. So they would remove the houses off the auction block. So it got to the point, if you go to my website, you will see back in the day, you'll see maybe 4 or 5 interviews that I did on the news. I did way more than that, but I was all over the news asking the governor and asking the state's attorney to please give us a moratorium to freeze these foreclosures. Number 2, let's create a commission so we can go through these foreclosures case by case by case by case by case to see how did this happen, to see what happened. Not to mention, they hit me with 24 counts of mortgage banking wire fraud. They slid me into a real case that I knew nothing about except the credit piece of it. And I never seen the 12 people I never met before, but the 2 head realtors I met. I had a relationship with them, but I had a relationship with realtors all over the United States. I had a relationship with the banks all over the United States, the mortgage companies all over the United States, creditors all over the United States. You know what I'm saying? So they slid me in this case. And not to mention, and it's in the transcripts, if anybody want to check out the transcripts, the 2 head Africans, one of them said she didn't know about our scam, nor did she financially benefit, but she did work on our client's credit. I was licensed by the state of Maryland. I was registered with the Better Business Bureau. I was a member of Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian.
Let me ask you this. Let me interject this one. All right, because I know I want our listeners to write down some questions and put them in the chat box so we can ask you. One of the first question is, what do you think made you a target? That's the first thing, right? And do you think that the system or the judicial system, like when I say judicial system as a whole, with the mortgage, with the banks, with the mortgage company, everybody, do you think that they were tricking African Americans into debt so that they could, as they do college student with student loans? So the first question is, what made you a target? And why do you think you were made a target? And the second was, how do you think that the judicial system was tricking African Americans into debt or forcing them into debt?
All right, so I suffer from PTSD. So let's go with the first question. The first question is, why was I a target? Could that be the first question?
What do you think made you a target?
Because I was exposing one of the biggest frauds that was going on in society, which was the foreclosures. You know what I'm saying? They had all of these creative mortgages. So when I first started my company, they didn't have all these creative mortgages and balloon payments and all of this stuff. You had to have a score over 680, 700, been on your job for a while, tax returns, all kinds of documents that they had to show in order to purchase a home. But all of a sudden, the criteria started to change. And I said, something is just not right. Something's just not right. So what made me a target was the fact that I went public with, why was all of these homes? And at the time, I wasn't focusing on the United States. It was happening all over the United States, but my focus was on Maryland. My focus was on Prince George's County, which have some of the most wealthiest people of color. You know what I'm saying? That was my focus. My focus was on Black husbands, Black wives, Black children, because the rumor is Black men don't marry Black women. Black men only make babies with Black women. Well, these were Black families. These were indigenous Black American families with mothers and fathers and children. And I had to figure out what was going on. So I asked for a moratorium from the governor. I asked for a moratorium from the state's attorney to freeze these foreclosures and let's investigate these foreclosures, not knowing that I had just put a noose around my neck. And I even got phone calls asking me, what do I want to stop this narrative? They kept asking me, what do you want? And I was like, what do you mean, what do I want? I want these foreclosures to stop. Then as I kept going on, next thing I know, I started getting phone calls from other cultures. So the last news interview I did, you know, I'm like, we got Italians calling, we got Jews calling, we got, you know, all different types of cultures calling us, asking us for help. So that was the nail in the coffin when I said that. That's when they was like, she is dangerous. We got to get her off the street. Because for so long, I was just focused on our culture. And then I started getting phone calls. It wasn't just happening to us. Not to mention, one day I went to my office and it was this big, huge package at my door. It was a huge report. It was over 1,000 pages. And I cannot remember the man's name to save my life, but he sat in front of the Senate and he told how the foreclosures happened from beginning all the way to end. I read every page and I told myself that I was never going to say anything. I was never going to tell whoever put that package at my door. I was never going to tell what I read. My thing was give my people their houses back, do a moratorium to freeze these foreclosures.
Now, I know that, you know, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we had a nationwide scandal with the S&L making balloon payments and then using, how can I say it, illegal mortgage practice to run people into debt and to make their houses not affordable, you know, with the income base. They're basically giving them a house that they know they can't purchase.
Mhm.
All right. So what was when you say you wanted more, what was the moratorium going to do if you had gotten it? And then like why, like none of the people that you were trying to help, what did you ever put out the list of the people that you were trying to help? Let's just say the 24 or the moratorium that you were trying to get stopped. Were the property owners ever in the loop about these moratoriums? Or
Absolutely. I saved over 800 families of color from illegal foreclosures, number one. And number two, a lot of these families were put in subprime mortgages. That's what you're talking about. They was put in
right.
subprime mortgages. A lot of these families had scores in the 700s and 800s. They didn't need to be in those subprime loans, but they got put in those subprime loans. And it got to a point where I was fighting the realtors, I was fighting the mortgage companies, I was fighting the banks, saying this either they can't afford this home or this is not the right loan for them. And it got to the point where they were very vicious, and they was like, you need to mind your business. We sending you clients, and that's all you have to worry about. You know, number one. Number two, yeah, I saved over 800 and something Black families from illegal foreclosures. Number three, I had a march down in Annapolis, Maryland. Over 5,000 families showed up. Not to mention, again, I was all over the news asking for a moratorium. And let's be clear, the moratorium did happen for a few months, but I didn't get to see it because I was thrown in jail.
Okay. Then what would you like to tell the people who are listening, like how they can help you, like further your case or make better known your case?
Well, I just I just lost my appeal. This is my second time in the appeals court. I just lost my appeal last month in December, and the appeals court did not give an opinion. In one of my first interviews that I did, telling my story, I said, I'm not going back to the Supreme Court. Subjectively, I'm on my way back to the Supreme Court. The day before my mom passed away in December, I found out that I lost the appeal with no opinion, and she told me that I had to keep fighting. So I'm on my way to the Supreme Court. You can go to my website. You can read my story. You can read the writ of error quorum nobis that my attorney filed. You can read the denial with no opinion. We just added a GoFund button on there for legal fees. It's very expensive to go to the Supreme Court. We just added that button probably like yesterday or something like that. But I got to keep fighting. I have a book that's due out in March. Of my experience of what I went through, the injustice that I went through, the fraud in this system that I went through. And I cannot be the only one that have gone through this. The fact that they tried to force me to take a plea, the first plea was for 30 years. I couldn't take a plea. I couldn't lie on myself for something I did not do. Was I scared? Yes. Was I in fear? No, because I knew that I was telling the truth and I knew that they were lying. And there was no way that I could take a plea. I don't remember what the second plea was, but the third plea ended up being 10 and a half years. But when I think about it, and I want to tell everyone that's listening, that's in a situation that's dealing with the feds or dealing with the state, if you did not do it, do not take no plea. There's a reason why the feds got a 98% conviction rate. It's not because they went in court. It's because 98% is taking the plea. The other 2% go to trial. The 0.5% usually are Caucasian men. They win. The other 1.5%, like me, get busted in the head, drug off to jail, and dieseled and thrown in solitary confinement and all kinds of stuff like that. I was arrested immediately. They wouldn't even allow my witnesses to come in and speak on my behalf. My CPA, who'd been with me 20 years, my IT guy who set up all my IT stuff, who referred clients to me for years. And the list go on and on. The feds went to their homes at least 10 people homes 5 a.m. in the morning saying you don't need to come to testify at this trial. Who does that? How is that fair? Not to mention the judge, my judge, this was like his second trial or something like that. He went to Morehouse. His grandfather was an activist, and he knew, he was watching what they was doing to me, and he allowed it. Not only did he allow it, he looked me in my eyeballs and he ordered on court record, you cannot talk about your activist work. You can't talk about your humanitarian work. You can't talk about the illegal foreclosures. You can't talk about your position at the NAACP. He stripped me of who I was, and the only thing that was left was their lies. And Winston Churchill once said, the most precious thing is the truth, but almost always the truth is barricaded beneath lies. That was the only thing that was left that was standing there, was their lies. It was horrifying. It was disgusting to watch that. This is how our system actually works.
Just like James, I've been a part of it. I served 23 years for a crime I didn't commit. I'm not saying I wasn't a criminal, but for the charge that I went to federal prison for, I didn't commit. And so I can understand the injustices of the judicial system, especially the federal judicial system. Now, before you went to prison, did you think that this could ever happen in America?
No, and let me be as transparent as possible. I was also one of those people that thought, and I commend you, King, for doing those years. I totally, absolutely respect you. Like I said, I'm sitting here crying about 3 years, so I totally give you much respect. But I was one of those people who thought if you came to me and said, hey, the feds just raided me, I would have been like, you must have done something. You must have done something. They wouldn't be doing it for nothing. Until it happened to me. Yeah. Until it happened to me, I could not believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe it. And I'm sitting there looking at all these documents that I had never seen before. I never did a mortgage before, except with my own personal home. I'm like, why am I responsible for all these documents? And then they had the credit reports. So my company did credit restoration. So you know what that is. We can get accounts deleted. And then not to mention, I was a member of the credit agency, so I could add my creditor, my trade lines on there. So they would only show credit reports with just my trade lines on there. They wouldn't show the before credit reports with all the negative accounts or all the documentation where I paid the accounts off and that the client was paying us back monthly. They didn't show any of that. So it looked like, this was some fraud going on. They did me real bad. And they wanted me off the street because I was asking for a commission to be set up to explore and investigate these illegal foreclosures, not understanding that the state was part of it, not understanding that the county was part of it, not understanding that the feds were part of it, not understanding that piece of it at that particular time.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, you served 3 years, right?
3 years and some months.
3 years and some months. Okay. I have a question from Mr. Arthur Jones. It says, would your appeal strip the conviction? And would that mean that your assets will be returned?
That's what we're fighting for. We are taking each issue one at a time, as opposed to putting everything in one motion and then being busted in the head and denied. I'm looking for vindication all the way around on one end of it. And then on the other end of my website, I have a petition asking for a pardon, but I'm asking for the President of the United States to investigate my case to its fullest. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not saying, hey, just give me a pardon. No, the first thing I'm asking for is please investigate my case. So I'm asking for two separate things. And of course, the president cannot vindicate me, but he can remove me from this low risk probation they got me on. They can release me from this 2.4 million they got me paying, and I didn't financially benefit, nor did I know anything about. And number three, they can get me my assets back, which they called substitute assets. You cannot take someone's assets and call them substitute assets unless the money had something to do with the crime. My money had nothing to do with a crime. So they labeled it substitute assets, which is illegal.
Have you ever filed a Freedom of Information with the Executive Office of U.S. Attorney in relationship to your case?
No, my attorney has, I'm sure he has not done that.
No, you have to. He's not going to file it. He can't file it. You have to file it. And because he's a member of the bar, he can't file it. So what? It's like him filing against his own people.
Yeah, that's the issue.
And so a lot of times, you know, people, we don't know that lawyers are members of the bar, and there's certain things that they can't challenge or fight against. That's why so many people have to go in pro se. You know, that's one thing I learned about the pit bull that you see on the show with me, James Jones. He got in and held lawyers' feet to the fire. And everything they wouldn't do, he would do everything for them and let them put their name on it and file it for him. You know, so it's just certain things that they're not going to do because they're going against the judicial system. You see what I mean? And so
what you just said with the Freedom of Information Act, what would that do?
You have to get the address. You have to get the address. Well, you can Google it. It's the Executive Office of the U.S. Attorney. It's for all federal cases. It's in Washington, D.C. The address is in Washington, D.C. I'll try to find it for you, but you can look it up for it. And what you do, you have to have to do an identity sheet to say that it's actually you. You know, that's even like getting some ink and putting your fingerprint on it and sending it in, because what they're going to do, the FBI is going to run your fingerprints to verify that it's you. And what it's going to do is going to give you everything that they use to convict you.
Okay.
It's going to give you a file. The bigger the case, the bigger the file. It's going to be stuff like all the Brady stuff that they should have gave you going to trial. And sometimes you'll find, like, you know, what I got out of it was some of the statements, the police who were involved in my case and never testified at trial, that never knew me, never had any dealings with me. They made statements against me that I never got, that I never received. And so what it does, it just opens you to a whole nother aspect of your case from the judicial side of it, like what the prosecutors use to prosecute you with.
Can I say something, Mr. Clifton? Can
Yes,
I ask
sir.
When you do your Freedom of Information Act request, ask for specific stuff. You can do more than one. So understand that you don't have to just try to put everything on one Freedom of Information request. You can ask for all your statements of the African individuals that was in your case. Any statement that they made to any, and this, I think you know how to word, but any agency that they made a statement to orally or written, you want a copy of, whether it be implied statement or anything, you want that. You can ask for all documentation from anything that's dealing with your case. You can ask for under the Freedom of Information Act, and they have 30 days to provide you with that. So what they're going to do is, he said, you have to have the form that verifies you. Once that's done, then they'll send you a letter letting you know how long it's going to take for you to get that documentation. In addition to that, what's going to happen is, and expect them to indact or redact some of the paperwork, black out some of the names, or whatever the case may be. The case is still open, so I expect them to do that. But I, like him, I would encourage you to do that, because you get everything that the government has, or anything that any investigative agent have. If you know that the names in the office of the investigating agencies, after you do it through them, if you don't get what you want through the Justice Department, then go to the agency specifically and ask for the person who investigated you file. And they have to turn those things over to you, as long as it doesn't show any investigative or anything of that nature. You can get all the documents that like he said, may be helpful, because they withhold or they may not transcribe. And that's why I say, make sure you include any oral statements made as well, because they may not have included it as a statement, or any words that were said orally from any of the witnesses. Don't just say statements, because they got to classify it as a statement. There's a definition on the Black's law of what is classified as a statement. So you have to play, they play the word games and whatnot. So you have to be specific in your request to the Freedom of Information Act. If you need some assistance with that later on, you definitely have my contact information. Contact me, and anything I can do, I help you.
I'll most definitely do that on Tuesday.
Okay.
So I'll be contacting Maurice or you.
Okay.
It's okay, but I most I get that. I totally understand what you're saying, and I know what you're talking about. Absolutely, and I hadn't thought of that, but I understand.
You know, definitely glad to hear you say that. Go ahead, Mr. Clifton. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was asking, Mr. Parks, did he have a question or anything?
You on mute.
Unmute yourself.
I missed the story. I missed everything. So I just came in, man. Caught up with the kids, man, and I just couldn't get free. I figured if I put in a little time, it's better than none. So I'm sorry, Miss Carmen, I missed your story.
Well, it's right on my website. That's the website.
I see you have a website. See, you advanced. I ain't got that yet. So yeah, I would definitely check out your website. And see, so are you recently released?
It's been 2 years. So October 18th, 2018,
Okay.
I came home. And you know, it's so strange. There's my book come out in March. And I felt like I was in a fishbowl when I came out. So, you know, Mr. Jones and Mr. Clifton, I don't understand. 3 years and I came home, I was messed up. I was literally messed up. And let me be totally transparent. I had at least, as intelligent as I think I am, I had at least 10 different ways how I was going to kill myself. Ooh. And let me tell you something.
That's after release.
After release, because I couldn't function. I couldn't handle what I went through. I couldn't handle this new title that they gave me, felon. I couldn't handle it. And let me say something. So in 2019, I was, I live alone or whatever. And I came across the Khalif Broader, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Guy.
I saw that.
And I didn't know him. I didn't know his story. I didn't know how it was going to end. So I sat there alone. And keep in mind, I had 10 different ways how I was going to kill myself. So I'm watching the story and I'm watching him tell everybody, you know, I'm mentally messed up. I'm mentally messed up. And that's what I was telling my family. I was like, I'm mentally messed up. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. And my family, I don't think was hearing me. So I'm watching this little young brother tell people I can't handle it. Anyway, not to mention, he refused to take a plea for something he didn't do. Well, that's my story too. I refused to take a plea for something I did not do. Subjectively, I didn't know he was going to hang himself from his bedroom window of his mother's house. When I saw what that looked like and thought about, oh my God, you know, suppose my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, they, you know, come here from out of state and I'm in here dead. I saw what that looked like, and that little young brother saved my life, and I can't even thank him. You know what I'm saying? I even found his brother, got some type of nonprofit, and I sent his brother an email saying, hey, your little brother saved my life. I would like to dedicate my book to him. But of course, he didn't respond back. He probably gets a lot of emails. But that little brother saved my life because I saw what that looked like. And then that's when I knew I had to pull myself together. So I just wanted to share that. Like, I was messed up.
Yeah, that's powerful.
I was physically abused while I was at this, they call it cupcake camp. I mean, I was drugged on the floor by 20 guards. You know what I'm saying? I was burnt on my forehead. I was strangled. I didn't know that in prison, jails, camps, behind walls and cages, that they don't like people who maintain their innocence. They don't like activists. You know what I'm saying? And not to mention, here it is, I'm in racist West Virginia, and I'm a sister of color. So I had 3 strikes against me. So after they strangled me and chased me around the compound like I was a baby deer and threw me in solitary confinement and all kinds of stuff like that, I filed a lawsuit in West Virginia court. And everything that I was filing, my sisters were sending it to the Senate and sending it to Congress, sending it to the Senate, sending it to Congress. Next thing I know, the feds raided the place. So I wasn't sitting in the jail or in that camp licking my wounds. I was fighting for my life with the physical abuse me and the other women were going through. And I was fighting my case, sitting up being denied in the Supreme Court. and I'm still fighting today. So, and what am I going to do to answer your question, Mr. Jones? If I lose again this time in the Supreme Court, I have to keep fighting. I have whatever the universe, whatever God has planned for me, I have no idea. But, you know, why is other people getting pardons and why is my case being overlooked? Like I have to know that the universe has something bigger for me. And it hurts my heart, you know what I'm saying? Because I've contacted 3 sisters that got a pardon from President Trump. 2 of them has absolutely just ignored me. One of them has contacted me, but I would never want to ignore someone who emailed me or called me or write me from a jail or a cage or behind a wall and me not respond. I could never, ever do that.
You know, let me say this, Miss Johnson, Dr. Johnson. First, I want to say that the email that you have listed under there, that is your email for your site, or is that somewhere they can sign your petition? Because I would like to.
That's the website, and then they can click on the petition, and they can click on the GoFund thing. So
Okay,
that's the whole. It tells the story, and it tells that we're on our way to the Supreme Court now.
Okay, well, I encourage everybody that's watching, listening, or may come on at a later time watching, listening, that you go to the email of Miss Dr. Johnson that's listed, and please sign the petition. You know, a lot of times, I know it may be on, I think it's on change.org. So a lot of times they ask for a monetary donation. You don't have to give the donation. Just share the petition. So please understand, signing the petition does not require any funds from you. Please support Miss Dr. Johnson in her plight, because there's a lot of injustices in you. And I'm sure that people are watching. Your family has been done injustice, and you at some point ask people for help. So how about helping other people as well? Do the same thing that you are asking. So please go on her website. And even if you can donate, click on the GoFundMe. No amount is too small. She does appreciate everything. And if you can't donate, at least click on the petition to sign and share it. Again, there's no donation. It will show that they ask you to donate. Disregard that and just share it. Sign it and share it. You know, she has it in 2 different things, so you can see the difference. The GoFundMe is for donations, and the petition is for your signature only and to share.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No
That's
problem.
correct.
Dr. Johnson, are you still in the business of credit repair?
No, I'm not. Now, what I do is I court watch, and I've sat in over 2,200 bond review hearings because, number one, I don't want anyone else to ever go through what I've been through, ever. So since February of last year, I've sat in altogether 22 court hearings. I have wrote letters to the judges, to the state's attorney, to the head of the jail, the head of the police department. You know, when something is not right about that happened in that bond hearing, I immediately send an accountability letter and expect a response back. And I also send letters to what's going on in the courtroom to the judiciary delegates as well.
Okay. One of my partners has a question for you. Ms. Riley, Lisa Riley has a question for you, Dr. Johnson.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to tell you thank you so much. You've given me chills sitting here. I myself have been incarcerated in Ohio, and I understand the abuse, and I commend you. You give women strength. So thank you for that. Thank you. And I also want to tell you, this is live feed on my Facebook, and I have Rashida Jones is saying thank you so much for inspiring her. She has a son that's incarcerated in Ohio, and you've given her hope today. So thank you for your encouraging words. We are here for you, and we will continue to help get your story out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Does anybody else have any questions? James, you got any question on your page from?
No, I don't have no questions on my page, but I have a few questions I'd like to ask Dr. Johnson. my first question is, I understand that you're doing a lot of giving back to the community, assisting people that's in need of assistance and stuff like that. And I'm glad. First, I want to say I commend you for that, because your situation did not change your heart, your giving heart. And I thank you and the Lord for that, not happening. But so continue to do what you're doing. But my question is this here: would you be interested? Consider your circumstances. If you say no, I do understand. At some point, if someone holds a summit or has something going on where they speaking to different people of different ages, particularly people that's returning senior citizens or families that just want to do better, would you be willing to give some type of advice, credit wise, for them, or any other talent that you may have? Would you be interested in sharing that with them?
It's funny that you asked that. The answer would be yes. My sister and I, we just got all of our documentation. We started a new nonprofit called Helping Ourselves to Transform. And basically, I went to so many reentry websites in the United States. And I thought, like, when I came home, the services that I needed, could nobody offer that. And it was along the lines of finance, the financial piece of it. So when I think about men that come home and they owe back taxes and all kinds of stuff like that, when I think about, like, for me, I came home, been gone 3 years, but yet, I got taxes that I got to pay on debts that was charged off that was considered as income. So I got to deal with that. So no one's talking about child support. No one's talking about IRS. No one's talking about, negotiations with creditors. No one's talking about any of those things. So in what we're going to do is it's going to be dealing with financial literacy along those lines and creating relationships with the different states for child support, creating the relationships with the U.S. Treasury, because the IRS collect for the U.S. Treasury, creating these relationships with these creditors to see if there's another way that they can discharge their debts without passing it over to the person as income. You know what I'm saying? So what we're going to be doing is dealing with the financial literacy aspect of it that no one's really talking about. And I have the experience in doing that because my for-profit for years, almost 20 years, had a relationship with all these different organizations and companies that was dealing with financial literacy. So it's not fair that a person come home and they owe $20,000 in child support. They can't even get a driver's license. So what do you suppose to do? Or, with me, I was arrested immediately after trial. The trial supposed to went into the next week for my witnesses to come. They stopped that trial that Friday. The jury, it took them an hour and a half, 2 hours to come back with 24 counts guilty. I was not given the benevolence to handle my personal affairs, my business affairs. I had a for-profit, I had a nonprofit. All together, I had 54 credit cards. I couldn't handle any of my affairs. They arrested me immediately. I couldn't handle my house. I couldn't handle nothing. They said I was a terrorist. They said I was ISIS and she was dangerous and we had to get her off the street immediately. So my point is, the services that I needed that was not offered to me is what Helping Ourselves to Transform will be offering, which is dealing with financial literacy.
So I take it that sometime in the future you will once to get up and going. If it's not, that you will pass along this information, because Miss Dr. Johnson, I have to say that I think that's a big part of the transition when coming home. A lot of individuals are trying to build their credit, trying to repair their credit. One of the things I used to teach inside was a credit class. And, I would tell people you have two options. You can either start trying to repair it now by challenging different things and hoping they take it off, or depending on how long you're going to be in prison, you don't have to do anything, because by the time you get through, your whole credit report will be wiped out if you're doing more than 7 years. Keep in mind that myself, Mr. Clifton, and other people were in institutions that everybody had forever in the day. So you didn't have to worry about going home. It was rare we seen somebody going home with the amount of time, or coming in with the amount of time that you had. So I, like myself, I done 20 years. When I came home, I had a clean slate with my credit. I had to learn by trial by error of how to build that credit, by get this credit card, get that credit card. If we had someone that was out and can help these people, steer them in the direction or give them the advice on how to build their credit, that would be great. It's one of the things that some of the things I'm doing through my nonprofit is trying to, help them with their jobs, helping them open up bank accounts. Because this is why I want to do like seminars or summits and have banks there, different agencies there, like schools that you can go to, things that just educational and people that's willing to connect that they normally don't know how to do. Because a lot of people coming home from prison don't know. We were fortunate, but a lot of people don't know how to fill out a bank application or how to get a bank account. A lot of people don't know how to get a copy of their credit report. A lot of people don't even understand how to read their credit report. And if we can have a seminar or something of that nature of what you're doing, that's why what you're doing is great. If we can have something of that nature to help them and send them to, it would be just tremendous. Let me say it for this.
Yeah, I'm working on a report now for someone in the Senate, a senator on the state side, and the same report will go to a congressman on the federal side. So the things that I'm working on with the financial literacy piece of it is like on the higher end, dealing with the actual creditors, getting the creditors to wipe the debts out without passing the debt along to the consumer or the returning citizen as income. So, but it'll all play in there together, what you're talking about, and I would love to be a part of that. So, we also need to get legislation passed and all kinds of stuff like that. If we're truly returning citizens, then we truly deserve a new chance.
So I think that, one of the things that people are missing too about credit is that so many of our college graduates are in debt from
College loans.
From student loans. So I think we need a financial literacy class to teach them how, or some legislation to where creditors wouldn't use that on their credit report. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they bail out multi-billion-dollar companies, like they bail out numerous mortgage companies, like Fannie Mae and all the rest of them, all the big ones and stuff back then. So why not bail out? Not necessarily bail out, just help the college graduates with their student loans and how to at least remove them off their credit report. If nothing else, even if they let them pay them without retribution of having bad credit. You see what I mean?
I get it.
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the things that we also need to teach. Then also another thing is, how has your adjustment with your PTSD, come up? For me, it's today. It's actually the 1 year anniversary of me to the date, me being released on January 10th of last year. So it's actually 1 year today, that I've been free. And so I had to get in the ring and box with my goals and ambition. I couldn't sit down and let them take me out. You know what I mean? How has your adjustment back into society been, and what's been your biggest hurdle for you to overcome?
It has really been, I'm getting better. It's been 2 years now. But I mean, I couldn't sleep. Let's be honest, I still sleep on the side of the bed. And, I got a queen size bed. I still sleep on the side of the bed because I'm so used to sleeping on a small bed now. For the first 8 or 9 months, I kept my shoes around the bed, just crazy stuff. I still eat out a bowl. It's not a plastic bowl, a nice ceramic bowl, but I'm still eating out a bowl. There's a lot of things that's still messed up in my head, but I am much better than who I was when I first came home. You know what I mean? I was shaking all the time. Like white men with sunshades on made me think of the feds. Black men with suits on made me think of the NAACP. I mean, I was just messed up. If I drive and a cop pull behind me, I mean, I get the shaking. I'm past that now. But I mean, I still have some quirks. I have to go through a process to leave my apartment. Like I literally have to go through a process. But I'm getting better. I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for almost 2 years. There's an organization called MBI, which has really helped me. You know, and one of the things that I was forgetting, like I had memory issues. And one of the things the first therapist was able to help me remember was I was a scholar of science of the mind and mental science and metaphysics. So on Zoom, when we was, you know, doing our little meetings, she was like, "Is this author named blah, blah, blah?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, I got that book." And I would run and get the book and show it to her on the screen. And, you know, and then she would tell me about other books. And I'm like, "I got that book too," and blah, blah, blah. So she had to remind me of who I was because I was so messed up. That's why I, you know, Mr. Jones, I know you said don't feel bad about it, but you brothers did that much time, and I'm sitting here whining about this much time, but it affected me tremendously. You know, not to mention when I got to Alderson Federal Prison Camp, I didn't even know what my name was. They were dieseling me. I didn't know what my name was. I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know why I was there. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea what was happening. And, you know, I'm a practicing Buddhist of over 20 something years. And I thought that I was Christian because I grew up in Christianity, Pentecostal. Like my mother was a diehard, you know, we had to pray and tarry and fast and, you know, and all of that stuff. I remembered being a Christian. So I knew I wasn't an animal. I knew I wasn't a criminal. I knew I wasn't a thug. I knew I wasn't, you know, trash, like how the guards were trying to make us feel. I knew that I was a woman of God. I remembered that before I remembered my name. And that's just so fascinating, you know. And I remember telling my mom that, and she was just like, I used to, make y'all pray. And I was like, it worked because I didn't get swallowed up into that whole thing that was going on in that prison camp. Not to mention, I refused to answer to inmates. So that's probably why I got drugged and strangled. But I refused to answer to criminal and inmate. I refused to answer to that because that's not who I was. So.
The other Mr. Jones has a question. He wants to know that once you went to prison, did anyone continue your fight, or were you fighting alone from the inside?
It was a quite interesting thing. And it was this camp that I went to, it was about 11 or 1,200 women. And, Ms. Riley, it was set up mainly for, Caucasian women. And it was only maybe 150 sisters that was there, Hispanic and, Black. And I remember once I got my marbles back after a year of me being there, I started looking around and people was dying and we wasn't getting mental health treatment and wasn't getting medical care and women was being raped and all kinds of crazy stuff was going on. And they told me I said, well, I'm going to file something. They said, if you file something, they're going to take you off the compound and they're going to take you to someplace and you're not going to come back for 6 months to a year. And I'm like, well, I got to take that chance. So it was women, Ms. Riley, that looked like you that was backing me. And I'm going to be honest, that was pushing me, that was helping me, but they were too afraid to do it. But they was advising me because they've been there a long time, and they was assisting and motivating me to do what I needed to do. But subjectively, when it was time for me to leave, with the help of 2 congressmen and a senator, and one of the congressmen was Congressman Cummings, God rest his soul, I saw in my file that I was under protective custody the whole time. I was under protective custody and I was not supposed to be removed at any cost. So that's why they never sent me to wherever for 6 months to a year, because those women were being drug off the compound and being sent to county jails and stuff like that, and coming back real skinny and all messed up and mentally messed up and all kinds of stuff like that. So I found out through the grace, of God, he had me the whole time. So I was the right person for the job. And that's why they got raided by the feds.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. James?
I got
I think Mr. Jones, the other Jones.
What's your question, Mr. Jones?
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And can you hear me, Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, I can hear you.
If we-
Dr. Johnson, can you guys hear?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay, thank you. My condolences to your mother. Your story is um about your mother. I'm sorry. I think I worded my question wrong. I was trying to ask you, once you went to prison, did anyone continue your fight on the outside? They got rid of you or they sent you away. Was there anybody else out here fighting? And I did hear you say the moratorium did occur. But did you have anybody else that was by your side, any allies on the outside that continued your fight about trying to stop these illegal foreclosures? Did anybody else get caught up in this?
Well, let me be just totally transparent as possible and clear. When they arrested me immediately at trial, my parents and, my sisters kept calling the national NAACP saying, you need to help my sister. They told my sister that they did not know who I was. Here it is, I had been fighting for the last 3 or 4 years for these illegal foreclosures. And they told my family that they did not know who I was. Now, I do hear that they're still doing some fighting for, the wrongful foreclosures that are going on today with people because of COVID and things of that nature. But I don't go near the NAACP. I don't trust them. I don't respect them. I don't recommend them. And as far as I'm concerned, this fight, I fought it alone. I fought Goliath alone.
You had something, Spark?
Yeah, man. I just like to say, Dr. Carmen, I just read your story. I signed the petition. I feel for you. I was in West Virginia. I was on the compound a month. I wrote up the institution, and they put me in the hole and shipped me back to Texas for no, just because I filed on the institution. I felt that I know how West Virginia can be. I was there twice. So yeah, yeah. The story is impactful, man. Yeah, I plan to donate something. Like James said, anything helps, right? So I plan to donate something, but I shared it to my page, and I have quite a few followers, so you should get more exposure. But yeah, man, just I'm from Virginia, and I can hear your DC. I can hear the DC in you, Maryland, wherever you from. DMV somewhere. I can hear it. So that's another thing you had going against you when you went to the system, because they don't like DC inmates in the feds. They try to make it as hard as they can for them, and you know, man, and being that, like, so what James said, we're men, like we hate to see our women go through something. So if it's a day, it's too much for a woman. So the fact that you had problems with that 44, like that's 44 months you away from your family, and like I say, men, um, we're built different. Not to say we're built for it,
I
but
cried. Excuse me. I want you to know I cried after I got in the police car. So we talking about for her.
No, it's just
I'm ready to go home then.
Man, I heard a girl get 24 years, and she was in the cell beside us. It was a cell full of guys, and we were all looking at like 30 plus. And we heard this girl break down with that 24 years. I wanted to take that time from her. I was like, cause I was like, I mean, that's how it is. We naturally just want to save our women. So the fact that I mean, me, I don't know if I thought maybe all men were like that, but I hate it for any woman that has to do that, especially someone of your standing in the community. But I've seen it, and I'm not surprised. I've seen it too often, and that they want you to shut up. They want you to shut up about it. Be quiet. Don't give it to them. Don't give them what they're asking for. Expose them. Like you're gonna get back from us and many other groups that want to expose the government for what it is. I mean, they can't hide it. We have social media now, so they can hide it in the times of Hoover, but the feds are bound to, they're gonna get exposed. The more of us, and really we need to work together and collectively. And yeah, that's all I had to say. I just wanted to add, and I want to commend you.
I appreciate that. when they stopped the trial, the day before, it was really, really cold outside. It was February. It was snow up to our knees. So I had on this mink coat. Let's be clear. I had on this mink coat. And the day before, the bailiff whispered in my ear, he said, do not wear that coat tomorrow and do not wear that jewelry. So I'm like, that's interesting. I said, but it's cold and snowing outside. So, but I still knew that I had, my trial was going to go into next week. So when Friday came and I didn't wear my mink coat, I put on a regular coat, didn't wear my jewelry, none of that kind of stuff. They arrested me that day. So I'm making a point here. And the judge from Morehouse ordered that I be put in solitary confinement for 4.5 months, because 4.5 months later was the sentencing. So of course they didn't give me the benevolence to go home to handle my affairs. They threw me in a cell, a little teeny cell with human fecal matter all over the walls, all over the floors, urine, years of urine. They threw me in the worst cell. And I look at myself as a prissy female. I'm a female, like pretty things, and I'm nose sensitive. Everything has to smell good. That's just how I am from the time I was little. I remember, and I got to say this to Mr. Jones, I remember dropping to my news with the fecal matter all over the floors, walls, everything. And I just remember saying, Elo, Elo, lama sabachthani, Elo, Elo, lama sabachthani. I mean, I was bawling like, my God, why have you forsaken me? I've done everything you asked me to do. From the time I was a little girl, Mother Teresa was my idol, not Madonna, not Beyonce, not Mother Teresa was my idol. You know what I'm saying? And I fell to my knees on all that crap on that floor. And I remember hearing the universe or hearing God say, you're the only person that can deal with this. And I'm like, deal with what? I got to go home. I got to go home. I got home, but it was 44 months later. And I am now an expert at the injustice system, at the prison system. I'm more dangerous. They said I was dangerous. I'm more dangerous now than I've ever been. And I am prepared to die for our people. And not to mention, there are 8 crime bills that's sitting on the books from 1968 to 1994. And 7 of them was co-wrote, sponsored, or signed by our new president that's coming into office. That's what I would like to talk to him about. What are we going to do about those 8 bills that created mass incarceration on our people and put our people in involuntary servitude? What about the Prison Litigation Reform Act, with brothers and sisters, black and white, that are in jail being abused and beat and raped? And they can't do anything about it because the Prison Litigation Reform Act, BP 9s, 10s, 11s don't work. That's what I plan to fight as well.
Well, we like to continue this next week. We're getting pretty close to the time. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you here, Miss Carmen, Dr. Carmen. I want to always call you doctor, so to hold that title up. And I just want you to keep fighting. I want you to know that the Reinvention Center is here for you. Me, with Sail with Sippy, I have my own individual group or advocacy group and stuff. So I'll be sharing your story on my page, and hopefully we can get out and we can just come up with, maybe we need to get together with James, Lisa, and I, and come up with a plan of action. Mr. Parks and everybody come up with a plan of action so we can extrapolate this into, the atmosphere, and just get it out, just permeate the whole atmosphere, and just share it, and then just see, and hopefully we can come out with something. If it's nothing, if it's nothing more than to really get it out in the open, just get the story out in the open. I pray that you come back next week. I'm gonna try to get with Mr. Jones to see if we can do a part 2 of this, and then maybe
That's done. Consider that done, sir.
Okay, that's done. It's set in stone. So if you'll come back next week, we'll do part 2. What we'll do is I'm gonna ask everybody who's listening on the live to kind of read on her story, share her story, and write down some questions and come in and have some questions to ask her next week and see how you can pitch in and help. You know, it's 6 degrees of separation. If everybody shared, then the whole world will know from coast to coast. And my thing to you, my thing to you, I just want you to make sure that you don't give up, and don't worry about the people who don't get on board to support you, because one thing about it, God has the right people in your life at the right time. Everything else, just stir your situation, and everything else will separate. Everything that's not good for you will separate. Okay, James, you got anything?
I'm gonna give you some last words of encouragement. And I'm gonna make it brief because we're gonna wrap this up. But Dr. Carmen, I want you to know that I served 4 years in West Virginia county jails. I was in almost every county jail that they had. And this is why pre-trial, when I was going to trial. I understand I understand what you went through. I emphasize with you. Glad you're home and you don't have to go through it no more. But I also want you to know that when I was sentenced to 1,380 months. So it was through the grace of God that I got down to 25 years, and I served 21 years and 10 months on that. I'm telling you that I never stopped fighting. In fact, like yourself, I'm in the process of writing a book now that gives detailed information on how to fight while you're in pretrial, when you're in prison, and what resources you have after you get out of prison. That's something we'll speak about at another time, but I want you to know that you continue in fighting, you will succeed. The only time you won't succeed is when you stop fighting. So I would urge you to always continue fighting, and anything I can do or we can do, just know we're here.
And Ms. Riley, I want to appreciate you and your struggle and what you went through, and the fact that you came home a human being, because we know what it looks like behind that wall and how it can change us into little children or animals or whatever. So I give you much respect and I appreciate you, sister.
Thank you so much. And I am here for you. We're both going to fight. Thank you. Together. Thank you so much. And let's make it a personal goal for everyone that's watching this. By Sunday next week, let's have at least 1,000 more signatures on your petition. Let's do that. I'm sure with all our platforms, I have Breaking Silence, and I need everyone to sign that petition.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
everybody, for having me on. I appreciate all of you. Appreciate you, Mr. Parks, for popping in.
All right. I definitely love everybody for coming, and we have to come together if we want to make a change, make a difference, and sometimes we have to make sacrifices, meaning it can't be, sometimes it won't be our fight. Sometimes we have to help somebody else with their fight. That's what the world is about, so again, I know we done said it 1,000 times, but sign the petition, and whatever you can to help. If you can donate 50 cents, $1, $10, $100, $1,000, or $1 million, everything counts. Everything is appreciated. With that, we're going to say good night, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week for part 2. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.